Yes.
Alrighty, good afternoon, everybody. The time is 12:05, February the 11th, 2025, here at the Laredo City Hall, first floor conference room, and calling to order the City of Laredo Economic Development Committee meeting. Can we move to the
Roll call?
Yes, roll call.
Sure. René González, Arturo Domínguez,
Here.
Mayra Hernández,
Present.
César Garay,
Present.
Omar Minjas, Carol Alexander,
Here.
Fernando Baldasso,
Present.
Julian Rosnovsky. We have quorum, Mr. Chairman.
Let the record show that a quorum of the committee members is present, that this meeting is duly called, and that the notice of the meeting was posted in accordance with the Texas Open Meetings Act. Do I have a motion for the minutes? I don't know if everybody read it, but do I have a motion to approve the minutes?
Motion to approve.
Motion to approve by Ms. Mayra
Second.
Hernandez, second by Mr. Baldasso. Any questions, comments? No, none. All those in favor? Aye. Motion carries.
Aye.
Communication and announcements, presentation and update on the Bloomberg Harvard City Leaderships Initiative.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, this is an item that was brought up by one of our committee members. So we just wanna give you a brief update on this particular, program. And I think we're putting out, okay, so Cesar, Mayra, are you able to see the presentation?
Yes.
So back in, October, as you all know,
Yes.
the mayor, and two of our assistant city managers last year, last year, they participated at a program for city leaders at the Harvard, Bloomberg, University. And, part of that, part of the participation opened up the opportunity for some cities to apply for some of the different programs that they have. One of the programs that they have is, a program through the Center for Public Impact, that pretty much provides, cities around the globe, I should say, it's an international program, the opportunity to, apply for, a program that allows cities to have access to, leaders and experts in different fields, within the leadership, field of innovation for cities. So the Center for Public Impact, their main mission is to, help cities be more innovative and be better public servants as far as departments, and initiatives. So the city of Laredo submitted an application on two, initiatives. We were selected, and, we were selected for the innovation track for this year. In October 17th, that's when we officially formed the program and the team members. So you may ask, what is the innovation, track? Let me see. So this particular program, by the numbers, under this program, more than 92 cities have participated since its inception in 2018. More than 1,000 members, of all the different programs and projects that have been selected for this program have participated. I'm sorry, I can barely
She can't hear.
see. I can see.
It says she can't hear you.
She can?
No.
She can't?
Maybe if you should speak up, because I think that, or is
Can you,
this?
can you hear us, Myra? Myra? Did we lose him?
Mr. Garay, can you hear us?
Now, it sounds better now.
Sounds better now? Okay, I'll try to, raise my voice a little bit. Is that better?
It sounds if you all can hear me, I heard something about Myra in here.
Yeah.
It sounds very choppy and it comes and goes. I don't know if it's my audio.
It's the same for me. It's the same for me.
It's choppy.
What about there?
Yeah, that's much better.
Much better? Okay. Yeah, I think I was sitting, way too far from our friend the owl.
Oh, yeah.
So
Oh, no, we're good now.
Thank you. So this particular program, more than 92 cities have participated, 24,000 ideas generated on the different, I guess, initiatives that each city has submitted. And throughout the duration of these programs, they report that a substantial investment has been attracted with the little innovation strategies that these particular cities have applied throughout their particular initiative. So the program, it has different partners. As I mentioned previously, this is a program that was derived by the Harvard University program that our city leadership attended. There's 3 other partners that are part of the broader spectrum of this initiative. The Bloomberg Center for Public Innovation, the Center for Public Impact, which is the one partner that we've been working with directly on our particular application, and Bloomberg Philanthropies. So very quickly, and maybe not part of this conversation, but I do want to mention this. For this particular partner, Bloomberg Philanthropies, they have different programs. One of them, it's a grant program that we are going to be pursuing. And this one in particular is for street art programs. We have identified an area in downtown that we want to submit for street art, and we're excited. Once we put together the entire proposal, we're hoping that we can bring you a brief update at our next meeting. So what is it? At a glance, this particular program offers expert training and coaching to develop new ideas that can help cities and leaders and departments and public servants innovate and apply new methods on how we can improve our services, the technologies that maybe we can apply. There's a lot of benchmarking as well with other cities. And throughout the entire program, the idea is that we will be creating a portfolio of ideas, have a lot of interaction with the community, with stakeholders, with organizations, and so that we can identify and implement better ways to serve our community. The program or the initiative that was selected throughout our application was the permitting process in business development, which really allows for departments within the city to collaborate and identify areas of opportunity to improve our processes. The key priority, as I mentioned, is to streamline the development and building permitting process, to be more efficient, to better serve our community, to enhance the business-friendly environment, to streamline the communication with our constituents, through the exchange of the ideas that need to be considered as we move forward with this particular process, and identify the approaches that the city and departments need to take into account. This is the pretty much like the structure of this team. The leadership or the leaders of this particular core team are our mayor and our assistant city managers, Mr. Valdez and Mr. Landin. And again, that's the key priority area on the initiative that was selected by the program. Now the core team, and this is, I think we're gonna have a final core team by the end of the month. But it's pretty much the departments that are gonna be involved in this process. Is economic development, the building department, the fire department, the public information office. We also have engineering that's gonna be part of it, very important, our IT department, so that we can also tackle the technology and programs that maybe we need to address. And we also added planning and zoning as part of this exercise and process. This is in a nutshell how the program timeline looks like. Right now we are in the design stage. Throughout October and November we've been having a lot of workshops and trainings and really training on how to use the tools that they have available for the team. so that we can better communicate and implement and do the research that is needed. The problem framing, this was the first site visit, so in late January, we had the visit of our two core leaders from the Bloomberg team. They came down to Laredo. We had a full 2-day session, pretty much identifying the departments and the issues and the design of the different ideas to start creating the frame of work that's gonna lead us to the implementation of initiatives and processes. This program includes 3 more visits, so we already tackled one. We're hoping that by the end of May, we're gonna have a second visit to work on the synthesis for this initiative. These are just some of the pictures of the exercise, the 2-day workshop that we hosted with our city leaders and the departments involved. And that's pretty much in a very at a glance the overview of the program. I wish I could share more as far as structures and the processes that but we're barely in the process of designing the entire, I guess, work plan moving forward. So maybe this is something that we can include at the next meeting as well, and we can continue giving you updates on this. I do foresee that this committee will be key when we conduct our community and stakeholder engagement when they come back to Laredo. So be on the lookout
And
for
what
it.
was the best part of it?
You know, me personally, I think having all the departments and internal departments identify and analyze, 1, the role of each one of our departments, 2, because this is just, we're not even, we're barely starting with this process, yeah. Identifying areas of opportunity from departments. I think it also gave, at least in my perspective, a different view of maybe challenges that other departments have that in my day-to-day operations, it's crucial. And I think just having that understanding of each and every one of our department challenges and opportunities, and see how we can tie in and put all the pieces of the puzzle, try to start putting them together. I think that's on an internal level. I think that was one of the most important features of this first site visit. I do foresee that once we start with the interviews and the data collection and the stakeholder and community involvement, I think that's gonna be very, very telling, very, it's gonna be very solid as well as we move forward with the program.
And what you didn't like? What part did you like?
I wouldn't be able to identify one setback in particular. I do wish that maybe we could have an even more bigger group, right? But they're very structured as to the number of, and I don't mean this in a negative way, I think that's just to be more efficient in the planning process.
Can you say you can get a group leader to teach the rest of the department?
From this particular, I do foresee that once we finish this 8-month program, I do see that's gonna give a lot of tools and confidence and overview to some of the core team members that are gonna be able to go to their respective departments and disseminate, the information, the initiatives, the processes. So I do think that's gonna give some sort of a.
But you said you would have liked that more people could have participated in it.
Be part of the actual core team to participate throughout the 8-month program. That's not to say that at any given point throughout the process, we're gonna be sitting down with departments that maybe are not gonna be on the weekly calls or on the monthly visits, or they're not gonna be part of it, but they are gonna have an important role when we get to meet and interview them and start gathering all the data that we need to go back and do the homework at the core team level.
Miriam, this sounds like a SWOT analysis, just, a strategy to build and identify the organization's strengths and where's, again, opportunities, where are your threats, and how do you combat some of those needs. Is that what I'm getting?
I think that maybe there is a component to it, but I do believe that this program, it's more on because we know what the strengths and weaknesses and opportunities and threats may be on the particular issue. I think this program takes it to a different level to where they have leadership involved and they have the brainstorming and of ideas and new processes and the benchmarking. We looked at, other cities our size have participated in this program with the exact same issue. So there's a lot of benchmarking, a lot of, so yeah, to answer your question, does it have a component of it? Yes. Do we treat it as such, as a SWOT analysis? No. I think it dives in more into implementation, more than just an overview.
So in essence, based on the presentation, what I'm observing is they started with a SWOT analysis. You want to make sure that you all are aware, again, and make sure that everyone's aware of your strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats, and then actually to develop the strategy to plan it out, and then to implement and execute. Because sometimes, I foresee the Viva Laredo plan, for example, it was swiftly developed and done, but it's the execution where I think struggles, and so you need facilitators, and it cannot be. Traditionally, you don't want anybody within the same core team that's making decisions. You need an outsider perspective to kind of be championing and cheering and holding you accountable to make sure things are actually moving forward.
Right.
It seems that that's what this is going to be, correct?
I think in my opinion, a SWOT analysis is very delineated to just, for the lack of a better term, to one entity. The process or the exercise that we've been through, at least in the initial phases of this program, has been more dived into identifying other stakeholders, and this is not just the city SWOT analysis. Let's identify, the other stakeholders or entities or individuals that have an important role in this, and then, in a way, also identifying their own SWOT analysis. And so it's not just one organizational SWOT analysis, but I do think it's kind of like a component of the process. But I wouldn't call this a SWOT analysis session.
Question, Mr. What do you see as
For the record, can we please?
Rene Gonzalez,
Present.
I was on TV. What do you expect to be the end result, touchy-feely thing, where we can actually, as citizens, know that this was part of this? As might have mentioned, there's been plans before, but the execution part seems to be the challenge.
And I will be the first one to tell you that I think that's one of the biggest challenges that we have heard from constituents, even from city departments, on all the studies that are done, and then what about the implementation. If you ask me, what will be the ideal outcome, will be precisely that, implementing, even if it's just two areas that we implement, whether it's technology, whether it's access to more streamlined process that we're able to change. Even if it's just one in the entire permitting process, to me that's already a win. Do we want to shoot for more? Of course. We want to be able to be at the level of other cities that maybe, and I'm not saying that this is the core intention of the program, but just for the sake of conversation.
What is the intention of the program?
The intention of the program is to streamline the process.
Streamline what process?
The building permitting process. We understand that there are concerns about, how long it takes to get a building permit, about coding, building codes.
All of this, the program is all connected to the permitting process?
It's a business development and permitting process.
Yeah, I've heard that the police often, the fire department goes and it tells you, you have to
And
do
that
this
was
and this.
discussed at the
You have to
first
do this
visit.
and this, and then, when they do it, they ask for inspection again, they get there. I know, you're missing now this, and they have different criteria, that's what I've heard.
But that's also the interesting part of going through this type of processes, because one of the things that made us realize as well is, well, what about maybe, what's the role of the applicant? You know, do we need to provide more workshops and educating contractors on what, and I'm not saying that the issue is not there, but it's also looking at it from both, sides, and how can we help facilitate avoiding those type of issues, right?
Because it's probably a business
Holistic
that's
approach.
just, go ahead, Mayra.
It's the holistic approach to leadership and synthesizes in the reciprocity of process. So again, we want to make sure that one thing speaks to the next, and so you have a cycle of activities that need to happen in order for us to be responsible governmental officials and responsible consumers of our fiscal responsibilities. And so my understanding with this is there's like 5 practices, if I'm not mistaken, and I know because I've done research and back in the days when we were talking about the building permit. Well, the building permit would change policies and procedures, but would never tell anyone, even staff, or only the top 2 or 3 people that were managing were being informed. And I'm like, and where's the website to say, and where's your PR department notifying the rest of the constituencies?
Yeah.
Why isn't the city council putting it in? And so it was like these things were happening, which made sense in that perspective or in that department, but then they were not speaking to the other departments. And I have to mention that at the time, we didn't have a development department. And that was one of the questions, like, we need a development department at the city level. And the conversations, and I think, Arturo, you were part of the team, we were discussing how, like, the county had one, and then they were independent, but why wasn't the city itself having one? Because we were serving someone in that role as a committee to be the development department for the city without being employees of the city. And I think that those conversations is what helped us to address the importance of having a development department. And then obviously who was hired in the past. And so our objective as a committee should have switched, or enhanced with now having a department that would be serving as our primary, objective to support as liaisons. And so that's what I recall from conversations in the past, that we would develop all these ordinances without checking if there was already an ordinance in there, to establish economic opportunity for agencies to come in, all types of agencies to come in. And I think we had I'm gonna say, was it Killens that came in a few months ago? Also talking about how they struggled, but the important piece for them was that they had a person who they could pick up the phone and call to help them navigate through certain procedures. But if they didn't have that contact, then they would have been stuck, because our processes are so complex, and then we don't communicate them efficiently to the rest of the community. And so based on what Miriam is saying, I'm thinking that this is what they're trying to do with this practice with the Bloomberg Center for Innovation, and it's just support the team on how to streamline more efficiently with the resources available.
And I think that, and you're absolutely right, Mayra, and I think that within the stream, or our intention of really identifying and implementing processes to streamline the building permitting, I think it's also gonna give us, and going back to what you were asking, what'll be your ideal, outcome. I think there's so many different ideal outcomes. One of them, I can tell you, maybe we'll be able to identify the partnerships that we need to have with other entities, where does, academia, what role do they play? And you may think, well, that has nothing to do with building permitting process, but it is tied in with economic development. It is tied in with, what partners can they be so that they can help us also achieve our goal, and vice versa, right? Because more businesses, it also means more profitability on tax rolls for other taxing units, and it's a very broad win-win intangible impact, I think.
And it's a grant,
And so,
correct?
Mayor, I'm so sorry, if I may, I think one of the things that I want to make sure this committee also at least hears a little bit more, because we did talk about it at our at the bond referendum, and I can't speak too much on that, but one of the things that I learned from our IT department is also the structure of our IT department, and I, a person who loves technology, and not necessarily always in favor of it, but I've asked the question of how can we start developing ourselves to be a smart city? And a smart city stands for something, it's like an IT city that allows us to collect data to make informed decisions that will support the need of all residents and all workforce needs in our community, from traffic control to support grants and other private-public partnership. So I would hope that in the future, through this committee, we can also address the importance of making our city a smart city. And I'll send some information out to you all so you can read a little bit more about it.
Thank you, Mark.
And I believe you mentioned it was a grant, so it's a partnership between,
So this is not necessarily a grant. This was a program that through the participation of our leadership at the, I guess, main program, we were allowed to apply, and all of the resources, the time, that they're putting together under this program, there's no costs associated, so there wasn't necessarily a grant. It was just a competitive, application.
and Mr. Chairman, as you mentioned, we've all heard the horror stories. We've heard from today, this inspector said this, they moved to this inspector, and they did something different, so the fact that you'll create uniformity and having all these people on the same table together is big. I was just at a groundbreaking for a property that's almost 1 million square feet. It's gonna be it's just the amount of need for the building department and other departments to be one step ahead of what we're doing here in Laredo is tremendous. So we hope that this will be a successful project. And yes, if you're able to give us every month where you all are at, that would help tremendously.
Sure. And now keep in mind, this is an 8-month, program. They're not gonna be here to solve our issues, this is just,
It's a tool.
it's a tool that it's gonna allow for, and I think the fact that it involves, and it's actually kind of like a requirement, which I really like about the program, that it's not just top level city employees, they also required us to have, all different type of divisions be part of the core team, from the person that deals with the customer directly, to the person that makes the decisions, to the person that takes items to council, I think that's a good structure that they have. Again, it's a very short program. I think it's gonna be upon, the core team and the people involved and the leadership to continue carrying that, forward as well, which, should be one of the commitments.
Is there a group leader?
There's 2 not leaders, managers. The 2 overall leaders are our leadership. It's the mayor and our 2 ACMs. Project managers that are kind of like overseeing the logistics and the program. It's yourself truly and someone from engineering.
Miriam, I had a question. If I asked today for the business development and permitting process for the city of Laredo, if I asked for that, could I get it?
Yes, through the building department, there is like an extensive SOP, I guess, or steps on what to follow, and it's a diagram. And
so when people are going to get permits, and someone does like what you described, of an inspector will say, well, you need this, you need this, you need this. And if I or anybody compared that to what the actual process was, of course I know that's complex, right? Because who's gonna, when they say you need this, who's gonna go get the process?
It is complex because every project requires different building permitting. Like 500,000 square feet of facility will need to go through a one-stop shop, that has to do with environmental assessments and an engineering and a sealed, site plan, as opposed to Miriam's flower shop, where maybe I just need a building permit and an inspection so that I can get my seal. Every project is different, but to answer your question, and Myra mentioned this as well, one of the intentions of the city is to have a consolidated, I guess, division
checklist.
that can help, which is what, if you all recall, that's, kinda like, the new division that was added under our department that's it's developing. We haven't been able to fill one position, but that's the intention, going through this exercise, having a more consolidated, division that can assist with that. Are there materials and guidance at the moment? Of course there are. Every project is different. But to answer your question and tying it into this particular program, my ideal outcome would be, yes, there's a website and you can, it's a generated questionnaire that's gonna take you throughout the entire process. And at the end, it's gonna give you how much in fees you can expect, all the different
That's the
incentives.
dream.
All the different, that's the intention.
Okay.
All the different incentives that you may qualify for based on the address that you gave. If you need a zoning, a change in the zone, if you need everything. So if you ask me tying it into this, that'll be the ideal outcome.
And I know you mentioned all city departments, but will this group, the Bloomberg staff, will they be going to the industry and saying, we'd like to hear from you all first before we even attach this, to sort of have an idea of what the performance sheet needs to be like, because these are the goals, or say, you know what are your challenges? And then from there say, okay, we've been told by the industry that these are the challenges. They may not be true, they may just be emotional, they may just be whatever, but do these challenges actually exist between our departments? And that's, it's a hard question to ask yourself, to look at yourself in the mirror
Right.
and do this, but is that part of the process?
That is
itself?
a very important component of the process. Conducting all this community outreach and interactions and actually questionnaires with the people that use the service.
'Cause if you have a questionnaire, we can be used as a source and email it to people and say.
Yeah, and actually I can foresee that this committee is gonna be, one, included in, those type of exercises when they come, and two, that, your feedback is also gonna be,
It has accountability though.
if there's an implementation, again, after the 8-month, program, we should have a solid implementation structure and hopefully a timeline that we will need to take on and
Do they
Continue.
kind of force you to do it to implement it, or do you have to prove that you?
we haven't gotten there yet, but I'm pretty sure there is.
Like if you're gonna do this, but
But I imagine, Mr. Chairman, if they did a survey, they released what the survey answers were to like that, everyone, the whole world knows that these are our challenges. I don't think, secrecy is out the door when you're trying to achieve
what I was trying to say is,
progression.
what I was trying to say is, you're coming in to implement something in your city and then, I didn't like it. I'm not,
that's-
you know what I mean, like, are you forced to do what you, for an exercise?
They have to force themselves, it's the
Is
city
it-
manager.
Is it an obligation?
It would be an
Not
obligation
really.
of the city manager and the council.
Implementation is part of the program.
Okay, and it's a must.
Yes, after the 8-month, period, and we haven't gotten there yet,
Es más, no vamos a hablar.
but that'll be the, yeah. that'll be
Nomás
the-
con el agua te tardas 8 meses.
No, it's true. It's
No,
interesting.
But-
lo hago yo.
But, do you remember we were a Bloomberg What Works City?
I found out about that at one of the presentations that, from one of our very involved, citizens, that at one point the city went through this program. I didn't know, I think this was, 10 years ago, 15 years ago?
Maybe not 15, but it was we applied as a city, it was a great program. Bloomberg came in, we competed, right? And the leadership, the city leadership, approved, going out for this, program. And what it did was provide a lot of data so that decisions could be made based on data, not based on personality.
And I think that's how Recode was born, or the exercise of.
I'm not sure,
Yeah.
I know that
So these are, that was
the What Works City, I see here that you're talking about the leadership and the follow-up. It had the dream, right, of the follow-up. But I wonder where the follow-up was for the What Works City. And also, if this is a permitting process idea, which is not on the agenda, right, so I never would have known, except for seeing this, and actually, I still didn't know it from the program until afterwards, that you said it was specifically for business development and permitting.
And that's very good feedback. That's why we have our PIO be part of this particular program, because that's important, that people know
Because you
what
see
it is.
it on the agenda, it doesn't say anything that's connected to the permitting process. So the three leaders, the mayor and the two city managers,
Mhm.
it seems like somebody that's more connected to the actual permitting process would be one of the leaders.
No.
Well, I mean,
I don't think so.
No.
Maybe, but I think it starts from the top because it requires all these departments to synthesize their processes. And sometimes you need direction from two areas, which is again your city management team, and then if it's gonna go to city council for approval for any changes, because everything has an ordinance and everything requires city council to approve, even to breathe, I think. So I think that's why you need buy-in, and so you need two key elements. And again, it's the structural base, the organizational chart. It requires these two big elements to then channel all this information down so they can spread with the rest of the city departments and needs.
And I think
That's so,
yeah, and I think, Mayra, to your point, and addressing your point as well, the structure that this program has, in my opinion, it's beneficial in the sense that, like Mayra mentions, yes, they are the leaders of the program and our city leaders, but then there's the project managers, that's your engineering and your economic development department, and then the core team are all the other, individuals that are part of the process. So I think that whether city leaders are on top or
At the
department directors are at the bottom, I think the fact that both elements are overseeing it, in my opinion, that's, a good structure to.
That everybody gets involved.
Yeah,
and
because,
everybody
like,
understands.
And to Mayra's point, departments, we receive directive and guidance and okays and approvals from our top leaders and city council. So, city manager's office is our liaison to city council and vice versa. So, to Mayra's point, it needs to have the support from city leadership.
And I think you want to actually find out, because you challenged by an all is well. Why do we even need to do this from a department? Not saying that it happens or it doesn't, but that is an option. They could be defensive, saying, why are we doing this to our department? Why not everybody else? So this gives it an equal base where everybody feels comfortable, and saying that we're doing this for progress, not for certain individuals. So if you're coming in a little bit from the outside in, it's a lot more transparent than the inside out.
well, hopefully the same thing doesn't happen to this program that happened to the What Works City, which was a phenomenal program.
I wouldn't have historical information on how or why or when that didn't maybe move forward. What I can tell you is that right now, with the current leadership that we have, keep in mind there has been a lot of changes as well. At
A
CB.
lot.
A lot. So I can speak for myself. I'm not sure what happened back then. What I can tell you is that right now, the current leadership that is a stable, it's been stable in the initiative. This is one of their priorities, and this was a priority by the mayor. And that's how the program itself requests a priority by your city mayor. We'll consider it. This wasn't something that Miriam came up with. This wasn't something that another department came up with. That was one of the priorities that the mayor wanted to submit as part of this program, and that's what we're trying to, develop. The intention obviously is not to fall into whatever, happened back then, but,
Do you recall who was the mayor back then?
Oh, yes, I do.
Who was? how many mayors have passed, and how
Well,
many city council
it's
members,
not-
and how many employees.
And it doesn't
City
matter,
managers.
because if
City
you
manager.
have sustainability in your programs and your processes and your government, right? Whoever is running, whoever's leading at the time, you know, builds on the leadership beforehand. But my question to this committee is Laredo a business-friendly city? And how would they prove that?
Another-
What was, I'm sorry, I couldn't hear, is Laredo what?
Is Laredo a because I wrote this down from the program, from the
Presentation.
presentation, thank you. Is Laredo a business-friendly city?
When you're sick, question, how do you prove
Do
it?
they greet you when you go
Well, I
into
mean,
store?
when you answer something, you say, well, yeah, we're business-friendly. Okay, prove it. I'm in my head, I'm thinking about this permitting process. I have 3 examples just off the top of my head that I'm
Experience.
referencing in my head, right?
And I have two
I
that I will.
Are we,
Your statement
are we a
to
business
two
friendly?
people, pharmacy and a dermatologist that came in to Laredo, and they said no, they should have been here a little bit over a year plus in Laredo, and it took that long for them to set themselves, set shop. I can ask their permission to see if they can come, but they can give you a feedback of their experience and how complex it was that it delayed their opportunity to be in Laredo sooner than later. So I can't give you data, but I can give you some statements from some testimonials from at least 2, again, a pharmacy and a dermatologist.
Saying that
Right.
it is
But again,
friendly or it's not friendly?
I think it's complex, based on the feedback, again, testimonial. And I think this is exactly what Miriam is talking about, or I hope that this is what the mission of this initiative is, that's the goal, to streamline and make it a more efficient, business-friendly city, where it's all centralized.
You know,
One department is not gonna be responsible for everything. It's ludicrous to even think that. At the university, we have what we call a one-stop shop, but there's about 10 to 12 departments involved. And so what we did, for example, and again, I'm giving you just a snippet of what has worked for us to centralize processes that have so many other factors, laws, state law, federal laws, and when those 2 don't talk to each other, it impacts us. And so what we did is a centralized one-stop shop where students come and enroll, come and pay, do financial aid, check admissions, and then check their records of academics. If you need to change, you don't have to walk all over campus. Everything's centralized in one portal. And I think this is what my hope is with this program is we have a centralized processing where it allows for us to become, if we're not, a business-friendly city.
And hopefully
And I
that will,
hope what the goal of this program is, as to what I'm understanding.
And I
So
will
I'm
give
excited
you-
about it.
And I will give
As
you
a
2,
little-
I guess to add to your question as far, and it all depends as well on what, what aspect of define business friendly, right? Is it service? Is it programs? Is it expedited, whatever? I will tell you from our, or at least from my perspective, is the city of Laredo as a governmental entity business friendly? I will tell you that, in a way it is. We didn't used to have a neighborhood empowerment zone. Let's implement it. Let's have guidelines. Let's give these incentives. Is it the perfect guideline, the perfect program? Maybe not. Does it require? But it's there. The city made an effort. We have given more than, $300 million in incentives and committed to TIFs and TERSs and to attract business. Now, the process, yes, maybe that's something else. But if you ask me, is the city of Laredo a business friendly? Well, when it comes to trying to attract and give incentives and partner with TAMIU and partner with the chamber and partner with Laredo College and be in contact with, the
private
LMCA, the private sector, I think in that regard, I will tell you that we are business friendly. Is the intention there? Are the programs there? There is. Is it perfect? No. And quite frankly, I think cities should always have room for improvement, in that regard. Does the permitting process, can it have, better technology, better streamlined processes, yes, and that's what we're trying to really put together here. Mhm.
Very good. Thank you.
I mean, my 2 cents. I know this question was for the committee, but I think it all depends on what area as well, you know.
But you mentioned that there'll be a part of the program where you get people involved. And maybe you should get Maida, that person that had that issue, to get involved and kind of fix or tweak or give better, how to improve the program, no?
Because a statement like it takes 8 months to get a water permit, that's not friendly. Business
I'm even
or-
concerned to hear that it takes 8 months, you know, I'm not sure
And they ask you for the
exactly what
plan.
water permit, but.
They ask you for paperwork that the city has, you know, so you have to come to the city to take it to them, and like, well, don't you have access to the system? Like, no.
Yeah, I have fun with that.
Yeah, I mean, it's all in the system. Even if just the city of Laredo system will be able to talk to each other, it will save a lot of time. But like, as of my experience, every department does not communicate with another one, so you have to go to the other department, get it for them, then the other one.
And then you have to do it, they
I
don't do
don't think it's the communication, I think it's that we have not adopted, and again, I guess this was a conversation I had with city management and some team members a year ago. One of my goal and objectives as a city member and part of committees is how are we, again, it goes back to smart cities, do we purchase softwares that talk to different departments that would allow for easy flow
And
and less
that was one of
need
the
of having
topics.
10 people to do what, if you had one, and again, I'm pro for technology, but I'm also pro for employment. So it's always balancing those two. But if you had an internal mechanism developed where it's, again, point A, if you apply, it goes to this next person, the committee member or the coordinator for the building. Then from there, it's shifted to the next department, and then that department does their checklist. If there's a pause there, and it goes back to the constituent or the resident to check whatever needs to be done, and then once they submit, then it goes to the next department. Without having to pick up the phone and say, Miriam, it's your turn, or let me walk it over, or I can't walk it over because I have 20 other applications I need to review, and so it's not feasible to stop, hypothetically speaking. So it's just internal mechanisms. I do think it's internal opportunities that are there, and we just may have not explored yet because of the continuous change of administration, and that doesn't help, and doesn't help morale either. And so that may be what's potentially preventing opportunities to streamline and what we call quote unquote centralizing processes to make us more friendly to the consumer.
And Mayra, what if I were to tell you that there is that software that's already in place and
Oh my
there's already,
There is
No
software.
one would believe you.
There is a software and the
Because-
one-stop shop, that's what it does, you know, it's an application, it routes it to the different departments, but still, we have an issue, right? It's obvious that there's something, and that's the whole intention of this, you know, process, you know?
Just-
Cause we already have the software, but where is it that we need to improve, you know, is it in communications? Is it maybe on the on-site, you know, inspections and not necessarily the software? There's another component, you know, in average, how much is the city, how much are contractors, you know, taking to upload the documents that are needed so that we can expedite and be efficient in signing or sealing or, there's so many different components, you know, but what I'm trying to say is, the software is there, but maybe there's opportunities for another software that if they communicate, you know, we can even be, you know, more there's so many different, you know, ways, right?
It sounds like an educational part that they have to, somebody has to teach everybody how to use the system, or, I mean, that's what it
Yes,
sounds
we have
like.
program manager. Most of the time you hire program managers or consultants to streamline the process and communicate, but you need a day-to-day operation person to manage your software and find opportunities to fine-tune wherever there's pitfalls in the process. And you know that if there's anybody like that in the team,
It's a learning.
usually
But
you will
time.
have probably a very strategic program manager, or I've learned that in some cities, your assistant city manager, you always have an assistant city manager that has that critical thinking, program management, software management, and how to dissect and make it work to your benefit. Because a software is only good if you have a fantastic program manager to manage
To run it.
the program itself.
Yeah.
again, an artificial intelligence, that's what I'm calling them now. You need a human artificial
Well,
intelligence person to
I mean,
manage.
not just artificial intelligence, but somebody has to look at the whole process. Like, for example,
Correct.
if he has to walk to the other room to make a copy, pues ponle una copiadora next to him so he can make copies, you know what I mean? And you cut time, okay? Just coming back and forth, you're gonna waste a lot of time. That's why it probably takes 8 months, because all the process, if somebody has to look where to cut, and maybe you're doing the things twice, or two departments are doing the same thing at the same time, and you're spending more time. So somebody has to look at the whole process and come up with a written procedure that this is the way it's gonna be done.
All I can tell you is that at least at the first workshop that we had with all the departments sitting at a table like we're sitting right now, a lot of that has come up. You know, you learn a lot from challenges from other departments, and you give a, you know, well, why don't you, yeah, and it's and I know it may sound like a very mundane exercise internally, but really that is part of this progress, and I'm pretty sure, Tammy, you go through this type of processes or exercises, Laredo College goes through this type of exercises as well, or maybe you don't identify something immediately as a SWOT analysis forces you to, but you identify something towards the middle of the exercise, and that's how, you know, this particular, in my opinion, process, you know, works.
4 minutes to wrap up.
We can wrap up now.
I added, I created a centralized procedure that I had discussed at the time. I just uploaded to the chat in case anybody's interested to see when you become very detailed and methodical on procedures to streamline processes and centralize. But again, it helped someone like me. I love this because that's what I thrive on. Decentralized process to make them centralized and functional. So you're speaking up my alley. Give me a problem.
Will we be
To
able
solve
to
problem.
see that?
Can you
I can get it and send it to the.
email it? Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you, Mark.
Thank you, madam.
Yeah.
Any more discussion? Motion.
Motion to adjourn? Motion to
Second.
Motion by Mr. Gonzalez, second by Mr. Baldasso.
All in favor?
All those in favor? Thank you very much.